Hello, Shemai, and welcome to my wild Welsh garden. Well, the weather is colder and the hat's come out, but we've actually got a dry day today. We've had some really horribly wet weather recently, but today is nice and dry. So the rule is if the weather is dry, if it's not raining, then I'm in the garden. So that's why I'm here in my summer house, because I'm going to do some gardening, and today I'm going to plant a nettle. Now, I never would have thought I would say such a thing. Now, if you're new to the channel, you're probably asking, why on earth is this woman going to plant a nettle? Well, I've always been a conventional gardener, all my life really, but this year I've decided to wild my garden, to encourage more wildlife into my garden, to do my little bit really to counteract the catastrophic decline in biodiversity and bioabundance in the UK here. And the thing about nettles, stinging nettles, is that they are the food plant of lots and lots of different insects. You see, it's all very well me planting attractive, nice looking flowers for pretty butterflies to come into my garden. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I shall continue to do that. But if the butterflies have nowhere to lay their eggs and their caterpillars have nothing to eat, then where are the butterflies going to come from? And I can't rely on council to leave wild places by the sides of the road, and I certainly can't rely on the farmers to leave wild places for these insects to complete their life cycles. And as I say, the thing about the stinging nettle is that it's the larval food plant of several butterflies. Let me think. The small tortoise shell, the comma, the peacock and the red admiral, I think, all lay their eggs on nettles, and also several moth species, I'm sure, and none of which I know anything about whatsoever. And then in addition to that, there's all manner of sort of bugs, aphids, bugs, beetles, that then in turn become the food of other higher insects or amphibians or birds or mammals. So a nettle is a really, really good thing to have in a wildlife garden. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I have actually two nettles that have established themselves in my garden, which I shared in a previous video. And I also have a peony, which really doesn't do any favours for wildlife at all, and actually doesn't flower. So that's what I'm going to dig up, and I'm going to replace it with a nettle. So here is the flower bed. I'm standing just outside my summer house looking down towards my house, and it's down there in that jumble of plants, and I'll take you a bit closer. Here we are a bit closer up. There's the nettle, and it seems to be in the middle of, probably growing right in the middle to be honest, of a perennial geranium, hardy geranium, so it might be a bit difficult to get out, but we'll do our best. All those brown stems there, not this one here, this is an aquilegia in the foreground, but all those long brown stems, they're all the hardy geranium that have gone over. And that is the peony that's going to come out. So I think that's the first job, is to dig out the peony. So that's what I've managed to get the peony out without damaging the plants around very much, apart from this last of the phlox flowers together with a tiny snail. And there is the peony, which I shall give away if I can find somebody that wants it, and the sticks that were holding it up that are really well past it now, so they can go into a stick pile somewhere.
So the next job is to try and get the nettle out, and to do that without damaging the plants that are around it.
Here we are. Here is the nettle, and I've got out as much root as I possibly can. There's looks like the original seedling that germinated, and then it sends out these great thick, I don't know whether they're still roots or stolons, but they're quite near the surface of the soil, so they're relatively easy to pull up, and they then send up more shoots. So this one has got those there, and whoops, another one there, and another one over here. So you can see that next year, if I hadn't pulled it up, it would be quite extensive patch of nettles, I think. And that, of course, is why conventional gardeners don't want nettles in their flower beds. But as you know, I'm now not a conventional gardener, but a wild gardener. But I don't want it running all the way through. I do have to admit I'm not quite ready for that. So I'm going to put it in a pot. And yes, because when I shared this in an earlier video, a couple of people suggested that I put it in a pot very helpfully, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go and look for a pot that's big enough, and I'll be back in a mo. So I found this pot, which is pretty big, and filled it 2/3 full of soil from the hole where I dug the peony out of, and I've also dug a hole there big enough for the pot to go in. So this nettle actually looks very similar to mint and the way that mint grows, and so I'm going to plant it in exactly the same way as I would plant some mint. So there we are, one nettle pot, and I'm now going to put that into the hole. And there is the nettle pot in the flower border. And I think it might actually give the phloxes a bit more room. And that's what the flower bed looks like from where I was standing outside my summer house. Looking just as messy, but a little bit barer. This is the other nettle that's established itself in my garden, but I don't really want to disturb that, because as I move away you can see that it's amongst the roots of some cosmos and some verbena bonariensis that's actually still flowering. This is at the top of my garden next to the potting shed, and it's still looking quite pretty in a sort of wild and rather messy way. And geranium roseanne is still flowering. And there's even a honeybee. Although I do have to say, she is looking a little bit cold. And a honeybee on the cosmos. Oh, gone. And I thought while I was here I'd give you an update on my grassy area. So this is the area that I've cleared of the plants that were there that weren't particularly interesting. I've left some plants along the edge. There's hardy geranium and some pulmonaria, lungwort, and some primroses and geum and another hardy geranium. But the idea is that they're quite low growing, so they will blend seamlessly into the long grass behind and just look fabulous. I sowed it with meadow grass. I can't remember when it was now, last week or the week before, but there's no sign of anything coming up yet. But the area around the polytunnel, I'll give you an update on that as well. So this area I sowed a couple of weeks before the one I've just shown you, and I'm not sure whether you can see, but if you get a little bit closer you might be able to see. I think you can. Lots of little grass seedlings, all germinated. So far the plan is working. Next year this will be a lovely long grassy area for butterflies to lay their eggs, for the caterpillars to eat, and for the insects to complete their life cycle in. I'm not entirely sure how to manage nettles. I've never grown them before, not deliberately anyway. So I don't really know how to manage them, because if I let them flower, then they're just going to seed everywhere, and I shall be cursing the day I ever planted one and allowed it to try and colonise my garden. But on the other hand, if I take the flowers off, then that's depriving of the butterflies of somewhere to lay their eggs, because I have an idea that the red admiral lays its eggs, her eggs, in the flowers. So if anybody out there has any advice or any ideas, please let me know. So I hope you've enjoyed your visit to my wild Welsh garden and watching me do strange things. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you come again. If you'd like to come again, then you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hwyl am y tro!